If you think the Greek gods are always serious and dignified, get ready to change your mind. These stories prove that even Mount Olympus has its off days filled with drama that will make you laugh until you cry. Enjoy the hilariously disastrous decisions and the hidden lessons behind the gods' antics. Welcome to the mythological cinematic universe, where the gods are not only powerful but also incredibly mischievous. Hera and Zeus get tricked. Zeus is known as the almighty ruler of the gods, but he also has a notorious weakness, his love for beauty and an irresistible urge to flirt with goddesses and mortal women alike. This, of course, infuriates his wife, Hera, who constantly seeks ways to punish him. One day, Hera decided it was time to teach Zeus a lesson. She secretly teamed up with Poseidon, Apollo, and Athena, gods who had grown tired of Zeus' power plays and endless affairs. Together, they came up with a scheme. They would trick Zeus into believing that he had lost his power and had been overthrown by the other gods of Olympus. Hera and her allies used a magical rope to tie Zeus to his own bed. Mocking him, they declared, "The era of Zeus is over." Zeus struggled in anger, but he couldn't break free. Hera smirked, satisfied that she had finally put him in his place. However, Hermes, the ever-loyal messenger god, discovered their plan. Under the cover of night, he stealthily untied Zeus and helped him turn the tables. Instead of unleashing his wrath, Zeus decided to play along. He pretended to accept his defeat, acting so convincingly that even Hera believed she had truly won. But just as Hera approached to gloat over her victory, Zeus suddenly summoned a hailstorm, right above her head. Laughing, he teased, "I knew you missed me so much you had to tie me up just to keep me by your side, my dear Hera." Honestly, Zeus should have been an actor. His performance as a defeated god was so believable that even Hera fell for it. The whole of Mount Olympus erupted in laughter at the sight of Hera being outplayed by her own prank. Red-faced and fuming, Hera had no choice but to accept defeat. It turns out that the great goddess of strategy was no match for Zeus' cunning tricks. Truly, what goes around comes around. Hera and Zeus, the perfect sitcom couple. If the gods had a sitcom, Zeus and Hera would undoubtedly be the ultimate chaotic married couple. Zeus, the mischievous husband, always stirring up trouble, and Hera, the fiery wife, trying to keep him in check, but somehow always losing in the end. This isn't just a divine prank, it's proof that even the gods have their hilarious, all-too-human moments. Because sometimes, even on Mount Olympus, things can spiral into the kind of ridiculous drama you'd expect from a comedy show. Dionysus and the Donkey. Dionysus, the god of wine and revelry, was known for his wild and bizarre adventures. One time, while hosting an extravagant drinking party deep in the forest, Dionysus got completely wasted and, unsurprisingly, lost his way. In his drunken haze, he couldn't remember how to get back to Olympus, not that he really cared, as long as there was still wine to drink. Luckily, in the midst of the forest, he stumbled upon an old stray donkey. The donkey, though tired and scruffy, was surprisingly intelligent and knew every path in the woods. Somehow, Dionysus managed to strike a deal with the donkey. In exchange for a bag of wine, it would carry him out of the forest. The donkey agreed, and thus began the long journey of carrying the god of wine through the dense woods. Excited as ever, Dionysus spent the entire trip singing and rambling on about all sorts of nonsense. The donkey, though unable to understand a word, faithfully trudged forward, occasionally sighing as if to say, "Carrying a god is no easy task. How did I get myself into this mess?" Not only did it have to bear Dionysus' weight, but it also had to endure his drunken singing the entire way. At last, Dionysus made it safely out of the forest and returned to Olympus. Deeply grateful for the donkey's kindness, he decided to grant it a special reward, a place in the sky, where it would shine as a bright star. Dionysus proclaimed, "You guided me through the dark forest, now you shall guide others through the night." The humble donkey star. People often admire heroic constellations like Orion or Pegasus, but who would have thought there was a star dedicated to a donkey? Dionysus certainly had a quirky sense of humor. When the other gods saw the new star, they burst into laughter, unable to believe that a mere donkey had become a celestial guide. But Dionysus, ever the carefree trickster, just winked and said, "Laugh all you want, but if you ever get lost, don't come crying to me." Beyond the humor, this story holds a hidden lesson. Even the most humble things have their own value, and sometimes, help comes from the most unexpected places. Hermes and the Flying Shoe. Hermes, the swift messenger god, was famous for his winged sandals that allowed him to soar across the skies. His shoes weren't just a means of transportation, they were his greatest pride. One day, wanting to show off his speed, Hermes challenged Apollo, the god of light and music, to a race. Brimming with confidence, Hermes declared, "Hey, Apollo! I challenge you to a race. But just so you know, these winged sandals of mine are faster than any ray of light you can summon." Not one to back down, Apollo accepted the challenge. However, before the race began, Hermes came up with a mischievous plan to ensure his victory. While Apollo was adjusting his laurel wreath, Hermes secretly used a magical rope to tie Apollo's sandals to a massive rock. The moment the starting signal rang out, Hermes shot forward like the wind, zooming past the clouds and leaving behind a shimmering streak of light. Apollo, on the other hand, found himself stuck in place, dragged backward by the heavy rock. Struggling in frustration, he shouted, "Hermes! What have you done?" From far ahead, Hermes turned back with a sly grin and called out, "Oh, I just made sure I won fair and square." Truly, no one was quicker than Hermes, not just in running but also in cheating. He had once again taken his special talents to the next level. By the time Apollo finally freed himself and dashed toward the finish line, Hermes was already there, sipping on a glass of wine. When Apollo angrily confronted him, Hermes simply shrugged and said, "I'm the god of trickery, after all. What's the fun in winning if you don't cheat a little?" Apollo, the unfortunate victim. Apollo had hoped to showcase his divine speed, only to be outplayed by Hermes' sneaky antics. At least he learned an important lesson: never turn your back on the god of mischief. Meanwhile, the other gods on Mount Olympus roared with laughter at Hermes' prank. Though Apollo was furious, he couldn't exactly complain. After all, he had agreed to the race without checking his own shoes. The moral of the story: competitions require more than just skill, you also need to check your gear. Apollo paid the price for forgetting to inspect his shoes before the race. As for Hermes, he proved that being smart isn't just about speed, it's about being cunning. Winning fairly? Nah. Winning while having fun? Now that's the real game. This story perfectly captures Hermes' mischievous personality, making him one of the most entertaining and relatable gods in Greek mythology. The Curse of King Midas. King Midas, the ruler of Phrygia, was famous for his immense wealth and his insatiable greed. One day, during a grand feast, Midas encountered Dionysus, the god of wine. As a token of gratitude for Midas' generous hospitality towards Silenus, Dionysus' old friend and mentor, the god offered to grant him one wish. Without a moment's hesitation, Midas eagerly declared, "I want everything I touch to turn into gold." Dionysus, ever the playful god, granted his wish. "Very well," he said, "but be careful what you wish for." At first, Midas was ecstatic. His newfound power worked instantly. He touched a tree branch, and it turned into solid, gleaming gold. He tested it on the walls, the furniture, everything transformed into gold at his mere touch. "I will be the richest man in the world," he thought triumphantly. However, his joy was short-lived. When he sat down for a meal, he realized his curse: his bread and meat turned into gold the moment he touched them. He lifted his beloved goblet of wine, only for it to harden into a solid lump of gold. The ultimate disaster struck when his young daughter ran up to embrace him. The moment she touched him, she was instantly transformed into a lifeless golden statue. Midas was horrified. His dream had become a nightmare. Desperate, he rushed to Dionysus and begged, "Please, take back this wish. I no longer want anything to turn into gold." Seeing that Midas had learned his lesson, Dionysus agreed to lift the curse. He instructed Midas to wash his hands in the river Pactolus, to cleanse himself of the golden touch. From that day on, Midas became a humbler man, living a simpler life. Midas, the walking definition of "be careful what you wish for." Midas was the perfect example of the saying "greed leads to downfall." He wished for gold without thinking it through, only to turn his life into a golden nightmare. Sometimes, wealth doesn't bring happiness, and you should always be cautious about what you wish for. Or better yet, if you ever meet Dionysus, don't waste your wish. Just ask for an endless supply of free wine instead. This tale of Midas is both humorous and deeply meaningful, reminding us that unchecked greed can turn even the best dreams into the worst disasters. Prometheus and the prank on Zeus. Prometheus, one of the wisest and most cunning titans, always sided with humanity. One day, during a sacrificial ceremony, he came up with a clever trick to both prank Zeus and help humans avoid offering the best cuts of meat to the gods. He prepared 2 trays and invited Zeus to choose one. The first tray contained a pile of bones wrapped in a layer of glistening white fat, making it look incredibly appetizing. The second tray held the finest cuts of meat, but they were covered in hide and fur, making them look ugly and unappealing. Zeus, tempted by the shiny fat, eagerly picked the first tray. But when he unwrapped it, he realized he had been duped. He had chosen nothing but a pile of worthless bones. Meanwhile, humans got to keep the delicious meat for themselves. Zeus was furious at being tricked, but couldn't punish Prometheus immediately. After all, he had made the choice himself. Instead, he sought revenge in another way. He forbade humans from using fire, plunging them into darkness and hardship. Prometheus, unwilling to let humanity suffer, took matters into his own hands. He secretly stole fire from Olympus, hid it inside a hollow tree, and brought it down to earth. From that moment on, humans learned to cook, forge metal, and illuminate their world. But this act of defiance enraged Zeus even more. As punishment, he chained Prometheus to a mountain where an eagle would come every day to eat his liver. Since his liver regenerated overnight, Prometheus was doomed to suffer this torment for eternity, until Hercules eventually freed him. The ultimate divine prank war. Prometheus wasn't just smart, he was a master prankster. Who else would dare trick the king of the gods by making him choose a pile of bones? And Zeus? Well, he was too greedy for his own good. A little bit of shiny fat was all it took for him to forget to check underneath. Truly, mortals die for money, gods die for fat. As for Zeus' reaction? Classic blame someone else's behavior. Instead of punishing Prometheus right away, he decided to make all of humanity suffer instead. Zeus was clearly not the god of fairness. If you look at it from a comedic perspective, this whole saga is like a never-ending sitcom about two characters constantly outwitting each other. Zeus, the arrogant king, keeps falling for tricks, while Prometheus, the clever trickster, always finds a way to outsmart him. And honestly, we should all thank Prometheus, because without him, there would be no BBQs or microwaves today. If you ever meet him, be sure to treat him to a grilled feast as a thank you. This story isn't just about courage and intelligence, it's also a reminder that even the gods can be clumsy, selfish, and unintentionally hilarious. Ancient myths aren't just grand tragedies or deep lessons, they're also some of the best divine comedies ever told.